Miss Aisha Stith, thank you so much for joining us. We truly appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Faith. I'm happy to be here.
So you are a candidate for the Atlanta Public Schools Board of Education, seat 8 at large. Why are you running?
That is correct. It's a mouthful. A lot of people think I'm running because I have 3 children in Atlanta Public Schools currently, but that is a minor or a narrow part of it. I'm running because I grew up in this city. I'm a product of APS. My husband went to an APS school. We realized the other day that our children are 4th generation APS students. It's in our blood. It's in our history. And when someone came to me and said, you'd be a great school board member, I thought, okay, we'll have to see about that. It doesn't really seem like it fits with my lifestyle. But I started kind of getting into all of the data and all of the areas. And I thought, okay, we've got a lot of work to do. And I think what we're getting out of our public education system is not our greatness. And this city is built on greatness. I love this city like nothing else. Like I have moved away so many times and I always come back. And I want our public education system to be known for being great like the other parts of our city.
So you are a product of APS. You have children who are going through the system right now. From when you were in school to what they're seeing right now, what has changed?
Oh, that is one of my favorite questions to answer, Faith. I mean, the problem is I remember how great APS was. The institutional knowledge is key. I remember that we had activity buses so that you could participate in sports or tutoring or whatever you need. That's virtually gone. I mean, there are so many programs that don't exist. I'm bilingual based on a program through APS. I went to North Atlanta High School. I lived in Spain for an entire semester. I came from a low-income working class family. There was no cost to the student. That type of thing is really hard to come by. And I have so many contemporaries who went with me to Spain or France, whatever country they chose. So seeing those programs dwindle and knowing that we have a $1.85 billion budget, we oversee a larger budget than city council, and not seeing those programs and not meeting the needs in other ways, you just want to get in there and fix it. You can't just walk away once you see those types of statistics.
So let's say you are elected. What's your day one priority?
To listen. Typically HR people will tell you it takes a whole year to kind of fully understand an institution. I know I do not have a year to do that. But what I do want to do is make sure that I'm addressing the most pertinent needs. Like I have my ideas. I've been out in the field. I'm talking to parents who will tell you. I mean, I think they are the community voice that needs to guide the conversation. But I absolutely want to know, what is it that people are saying needs to be fixed? And then I begin researching immediately. Like someone has conquered every problem we've got, most likely. And we can use that as a measurable way to get to the other side.
Recently, teachers have come under fire for what they are teaching in the classrooms, saying that, parents should be alerted of everything that is being taught. And if a parent has an issue with it, it should not be taught. As a parent of an APS student, what's your thought on that?
I think it's a really fine line. You want to be really careful. You don't want to offend anyone, any particular group, but I do believe it needs to be the parent's voice. And the most important thing you talked about is the communication between the teacher and the parent. If a parent is uncomfortable with material, I think there needs to be an open line of communication to be able to go to that teacher and say, I'm not so sure I want my child to read this at this age or at this time, or I'd rather be the one to introduce it. And it is also difficult on the teacher side because you can't have 30 parents with 30 different or 20 parents with 20 different ideas emailing you at once asking for their child to opt in and opt out. But there needs to be some form, some process of allowing that to happen so a parent does feel that they can safeguard their child from certain materials that they will not want. Now, as the child gets older, hopefully autonomy comes into play and that child can begin to make decisions for himself or for herself.
Well, if they're under 18, that would still lie, the responsibility of the parent. Because
Sure.
I mean, I imagine students in high school being taught or reading certain books or being taught about certain things that they could, as a 17-year-old, you can speak up and say, oh.
Yes.
But if you're, if that's the requirement in class.
I don't know if it should be a litmus test. I just think as they're getting older and as they're discovering and hopefully they're reading, I mean, this is something we've got to talk about. Hopefully they're reading and they're finding their own choices. And by 15, 16, you're breaking away from your parent because hopefully you're getting on a path to be truly independent at some point. So I think that child can make difference in decisions than maybe a 6 or a 7-year-old. So I think the parental involvement can kind of, just taper off a little bit as the child gets older.
Forms their independence. We mentioned those reading, and we know that APS is dealing with trying to improve reading scores. Yes. Specifically, when we're looking at the third grade reading level. If you are elected to this position, what is your plan to bring to the table to try to improve those scores?
One of the things I say all the time is we cannot fix problems we do not call out. This is a crisis. We have a literacy crisis in Atlanta. We have a city where people are leaving our schools. They're not necessarily graduating. They're leaving our schools, and we live in a state where it's very easy to get weapons. That's a problem. You have people who cannot read, with no job, no aspirations, and easy access. And that impacts us all, whether you've got a kid in APS or you are just a resident living in the city of Atlanta. That's all of us. So on day one, we have got to figure out how to get our literacy rates up and fast. I mean, there are screenings, tutorings, supplemental support. It's a full court press on that. Like, we have no time to waste. We cannot have children in the 9th, 10th, 11th grade reading on a third grade level. It just leads to so many issues. And really, it is a problem for our entire city, not just the public school system.
You mentioned a couple of strategies that could help this. Is there anything that you are very keen on?
Oh, I believe in tutoring. I have been fortunate enough, the times when I feel my child is falling a little bit behind, we've been able to utilize tutoring. And a lot of times when we're looking across the city, and maybe you're looking across socioeconomic lines, and you're thinking, oh, children on this side of town or children from this background have such great test scores. A lot of that is tutoring. So if we have this and we know this data, we've got to figure out a way to offer tutoring to all children. And you offer it sooner than later. Don't wait until we're in a crisis state and we have to change it. Now, we're there now, so we have to do all that we can. But, if a kindergartner comes in and that kindergartner has not had any pre-K, they maybe haven't been exposed to learn to read, that's a great time to get a tutor in place early or supplemental support in place early so that child continues to grow in a much bigger span and does not get left behind.
And would that tutoring be free to the families?
Oh, I think it absolutely needs to be free to the families. Again, $1.85 billion. I mean, what I think we need to do is overhaul the budget. That is the painstaking board member, probably week after week, line by line, excising, taking out what works so that we can see, okay, we've got a sum of money that we can apply to programs to help and improve our communities that need it the most.
Can I ask you about school safety? One of the biggest, just heart-wrenching moments is when we get a headline about a school shooting, of course. Where can school safety be improved in APS right now?
Oh, I think that's another thing. The socio-emotional learning is so important. And I think we're not doing the best job of that. We have some incredible counselors, but they are spread very thin. I think the answer lies in catching the students before they feel that they are threatened or need to threaten someone else. It's often a very reactionary process. And I'm a parent. I received those texts and those calls. My daughter was, I think the last time we had a midtown shooting, she is in an inner city school. And you get that call, okay, Mom, I'm in the gym and the gym door is down. Okay, well, that means that you're probably safe, but it is the worst call, second to worst call, let me be safe there, but it is the worst call you can get as a parent when your child is trapped in a classroom and cannot get out. But I think the answer is to provide support for kids who are feeling unsafe. We don't do enough with counseling, with pre-screening, asking if children are okay. And that's another priority. We have got to do that work very early on. I mean, a lot of times these are just children who are marginalized for whatever reason or feeling ostracized. It could be all kinds of not getting the support that they need. And that is when a school system needs to step in and be proactive, quite frankly.
Thank you so much. On your campaign website, you mentioned one of your priorities, not one of your priorities, but you did mention on your campaign website, not every child has a mother like me to fight for them. That is why I'm running. Can you expand on that?
I mean, I don't want to give myself the Mother of the Year trophy, but I have been fortunate enough to be rather involved in my children's life. And that is a real privilege. I mean, privilege comes in all kinds of ways, and I recognize that. I was at a school cluster where a parent suggested to her school had low literacy rates, and she suggested to me, well, if the other parents just read to their child 2 hours a night, we wouldn't be in this position. And I said to her respectfully, I love that for you, but I have never had 2 hours a night to read to my children. I give in the way that I can. And I think we can no longer just rely solely on parent involvement. Sometimes the mother or father or parental figure cannot come. And that's okay. You know, families come in all kinds of structures these days, and I'm very accepting of that. But what we've got to accept more is, how do we then still help that student? You know, there isn't a mom or a dad or a grandparent who can do this work through time. I mean, in Atlanta, it would take you 3 full-time jobs if you're working minimum wage to be able to pay rent. So that parent is not going to have the same time, but the school system, I do believe, has the means and the ability to step in and to help those students. That's what I meant by that.
Thank you. I know that, I mean, even during our conversation and just kind of, you know, looking you up online, and those who know you, you are a mom. You're very involved in your kids' lives. But some people might look at your background and say, I don't know if she has enough experience to actually be on the school board. She hasn't been a principal. She hasn't necessarily been in the education system besides on a parental level. What is your message to those who might question your credibility for running in this office?
I welcome that question also. I have a lot of background that does speak to being able to do this. I don't think you need to be an educator. And quite frankly, I've even said out loud, I think we need to come away from thinking that everyone on the board needs to be an educator. I think you need to look at a person's resume. Like, you know, where is our finance person? You know, where is a person who can get into the books and do the work that that's not my area of expertise. In my last position, it was my job to deliver news that was unfavorable in a favorable way. That's a real skill. You know, that doesn't come as an educator wouldn't necessarily have that, or at least I wouldn't hope they have that skill. So I think there's a myriad of ways that you can show that you can do this work outside of being an educator. And I think being a parent is, you know, like in so many areas, it's hands on the ground training. So I haven't made the policy, but I have felt what the policies feel like. And I could quite frankly tell you how they can improve. So I welcome the criticism. I understand it. I also love to read. Like, I don't shy away from information. I don't shy away from data. So I think that's just another sort of notch under my belt, and maybe going into it with an open mind, not being bogged down with the background of, you know, having been in education for however many years could actually be a real strength.
Another issue for APS and teachers is teacher pay. Do you agree on raising teachers' salaries? By how much, and where would you get that money from?
Oh my goodness. Absolutely, I believe in raising teacher salary. I also know when APS did this 2 years ago, it led to a $120 million deficit that we're now having to cover. So it has to be done, you know, in a really careful way. And again, I'm like a broken record here. It's going back to the budget. There are line items in the budget that don't need to be there. There are some programs I can't speak to them specifically because I really haven't done a deep dive on the budget, but I can tell you that, you know, there are programs on there that aren't effective. You know, we are paying some specialty positions that aren't warranting the result. And in those ways, I mean, you know, you have to put someone on a serious plan to improve. If they do not improve, they cannot stay here. So I think we need to find the money in our budget, which I do believe is there. Again, we're serving less students than we ever have before. We have 70,000 seats in APS. We only fill 47,000. And, you know, each one of us who lives in the city, you're paying more and more in taxes. So I would love to be the most competitive paying school system in Georgia, quite frankly, in the Southeast, quite frankly. This is a very expensive city to live in. And I think that happens slowly. Like, you can't do it in 1 year, but we are losing great talent to surrounding counties, and I'm not comfortable with that. So it is certainly on my mind to make sure that teachers feel very comfortable and want to come to APS and feel that APS is giving them a competitive salary.
Thank you for your answer. My last question is really just kind of a message to the voters if I didn't ask you anything, is there anything that you would like for the voting public to know about your campaign?
I don't know about my campaign, but Atlanta needs to vote. Atlanta is banking on an uninformed voter. I have learned that in this process. We've got to get out there and vote. Please research me. I mean, research all of the people who are running in all of these races. A lot of people are expecting you not to do a deep dive on them, and it's to their credit. But sometimes when you don't see progress in the city, it's for that very reason. We keep electing the same person, the same type of person, the same profile. So I think all of us who are capable of voting need to vote. Find your voting plan. Early voting has already begun. And then really do your research on who you are voting for. Feel comfortable. When you walk away from that ballot box, feel like, okay, I have just put great people into office because there's so much at stake.
Thank you. And just for background, do you mind sharing when you graduated from North Atlanta?
I was a 2001 North Atlanta
2001.
High School graduate. We have our 25-year coming up, and I'm like, okay, got to get in the gym. Got to get some Silver Star moves back in place. Yes.
Well, you look great. Thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us.
Okay,
We
yes.
truly appreciate it.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.